With the building projects of the year as finished up as they need to be, I've been really jonesing for some kind of new project. Nothing big or expensive or useful, just some piece of craftsmanship to get me started on the long wait for spring. It's been a long time since I've just sat down on my own and made something, so today I want to change that. I have a few ideas I might end up pursuing, but at the core of it, I want to do some bone working. I had a chance a while back to try carving a piece of moose bone, and I was immediately hooked by how easy it was to make serious progress and get a really beautiful end result, so I went out to find some. People are always just dumping carcasses around hunting season, and I've stumbled across a few over the years, so I know where to look. There's a sort of gravel pit shooting range thing a few miles down the road where I knew I could find at least one carcass, so I headed out that way and got to searching. I found what I was looking for almost immediately, but after doing a bit of digging, all the bigger pieces that would have been perfect to use for a project seemed to be missing. I really have no idea where they could have gone, and I was kind of at a loss. Well, I found the carcass that I came here to find, but it doesn't seem to have any of its legs or femurs or anything attached, so I think I have to do a couple more stops. See if I can find what I'm looking for. But if all else fails, I got a bit more at home. So I'll go find that. Along the back of my land is this little strip that runs along all the ends of the plots next to me, where I thought I might have some better luck. I knew there was a loose pile of maybe 5 or 6 plots down. Everything was a little difficult to find in the snow, but after 10 or 20 minutes, I had a good collection of nice, usable pieces. It took me a minute to find the right spot, but I found where all the femurs and usable bones are. So let's head back and get to work. To get these into a more workable condition, I started by breaking up the bones to make sure I didn't get any shards with micro cracks that would show up halfway through the carving process. Any weak spot in a piece has the potential to break while carving, so doing this ahead of time is a simple preventative measure. Once that was done, I took a few pieces I liked and got to sanding. With the sanding finished, I ended up with 3 sort of bone billets to work from, 2 flat ones and this more curved piece. This really just illustrates my own inexperience, as I thought I would end up doing at least 2 for this video, and wanted to have a few different choices of workpiece. But while bone isn't difficult to work with, it is a very, very slow material to carve. Nonetheless, I still drew up 2 designs, both for the flat pieces. As always, I picked an animal motif because nature is cool, and I tried to incorporate as many interesting shapes as I could into the designs. I have a tendency to make things with enough detail to be almost gaudy or too flashy, but my first priority is usually to get as much detail as possible into whatever thing I'm building or making. It's a good show of craftsmanship, which is really the main point of it. After a bit of sketching, these are what I came up with. I don't know exactly what they are. Are they gigantic pendants? Jewelry of some kind? I did some thinking about it and realized the only thing they really had to do was look good in my pile of assorted treasures when they're finished, and I'm okay with that. From the start I knew I was going to have to do a lot of removal, since the designs end up utilizing a lot of negative space. So to get started I did just a rough sketch of where the main form needed to go, and from there I used some hand files to carve it out. After enough Dremel work to add another layer to the ever-growing buildup of dust, ash, and other assorted particulates coating my lungs, I'd got a more defined outline of the main form of the heron. It's a good start, and I'm beginning to get a very solid idea of how the rest of the piece needs to come together, and by that I mean I know how to begin the long, agonizing process of turning a large part of this piece of bone into even more dust, an ordeal that would end up taking days of dremeling and hand filing. But slowly it did start to come together, and better yet, I was getting much more comfortable with the material and general flow of working it. I've been kind of apprehensive starting out, because I thought it would be a lot like carving ivory, which I had a chance to try with some excess I got from the bottom of this carving. It's much more like a stone, which I guess tracks since the dentin that makes up different types of ivory is built for constant wear and tear, but normal bone is a very happy middle ground between wood and ivory as far as workability, and I have really enjoyed it thus far. Even if it did take me more than a week of slowly filing the prints off my thumb and pointer finger. It took forever, but I was definitely making decent progress. Not that it wasn't a slog, because it certainly was, but I had the detail work to look forward to as the light at the end of this tunnel, so that pushed me forward. All I needed to do to get there was finish the branches and the spaces between the legs, so I got to it. I had a few different ideas for how I wanted to arrange the branches, but I had to go with a simpler idea for the sake of time constraints. But I'm still fairly happy with it and don't mind much that I couldn't do more weaving and intertwining. I've got all winter to do that, and it's very easy to forget that this is basically just a proof of concept. I have never done anything with this material before, and this is really just a trial run to see what I can do. Okay, it's been like a long time. This took way longer than I thought it would be. It's just because I made this piece a lot thicker than it needed to be. A lot of this I did with the Dremel, but most of the empty spaces were just a little bit too big for the Dremel bit I was using to remove all of it. So a lot of these had to be done with hand files over the course of days. There's definitely more that I could do with this, and I probably will, as far as just detailing little things, but we are finally done with the main bulk of it. Now I just need to make the back plate and clean it up a bit, and I will be done. Let's get to it. For the aforementioned backplate, I wanted to do a tasteful mixture of bones and bronze work, as the white and gold would be a great combination. To do this, I just had to do a simple bit of metal work using the sand casting method, in which you carve a mold of the end product out of wax, which gets pressed into casting clay, removed, and then molten metal is poured into that negative space. It is a bit of a process, but it's super intuitive and easy to set up. But first, I needed to make the mold itself. I'm not going to put too much time or detail into it. There really won't be much showing through the spaces in the bone, and what you will be able to see will be kind of shrouded and washed out in the polishing process. So I'm just doing a rough leaf pattern to give some visual intrigue. All it really needs to be is some polished thing that's pretty to look at. With that done, I got to prepping the sand mold. I'd been up all night working on this, and after hours and hours of waiting for the sun to come up, it was time to set up my furnace and cast this piece, which, with the amount of space there actually is within the mold, I didn't think anything of it. It's a large piece without much detail, so it really should have been very easy to cast, but again, I was forgetting how cruel of a hobby metalworking is. There is an absolute laundry list of all the little mistakes that you could make that would ruin or nullify hours and hours of hard work. And though that's definitely less of a concern when it comes to sand casting over the lost wax method, there are still quite a few ways this could go wrong. But when I finally had my bronze in liquid form and I was ready to pour, I discovered an entirely new way for a cast to fail. It caught me completely by surprise, and to say I was livid would definitely be an understatement.
Oh, you're kidding me. All that work. And after 4 years, that crucible splits down the middle. Fantastic.
So that was definitely a bit of a setback, but not something that was entirely unexpected. I've known that there's been at least one crack in that crucible for a while now. It's done probably over 100 firings since I've had it, so it was bound to happen any day. However, I still do have the original piece, of course, so I think I'm just going to take the time to make this as clean and polished and perfect and beautiful as I possibly can. So let's get to it. There really wasn't much more that needed to be done beyond some quick cleanups of some of the more rough patches, but it was definitely fun to get into the final touches, which is really what makes a project like this worth it. When all the stock removal is done and it just becomes a piece of art that I can really sink my teeth into. But that being said, I still need to put some kind of backplate on here before calling it a day. And speaking of that backplate, I had a trip to make.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for the brass plate.
You mean the giant one right there that's kind of obvious?
Yes.
Obvious.
Yes, that brass plate. I am so incredibly sorry that this took so long to make. I have been running into so many problems in this process, but it's over now and I have other videos coming out soon. I had so much fun doing this video. I love bone working now. I'm going to do so much more of this. And I will be selling this piece, so if you want to get your hands on it, you can send me a bid at bettingonalaska@gmail.com. It's a blind auction. Just email me how much you're willing to pay for it, and if you win, I will let you know. That's going to be all for today. I'm Mick, and have a good day, guys.